everybody. Nice to be with you all. I'm happy to report that my bio language is a little bit dated, and those two boys are now quality young men. So mission accomplished. They're now 17 and 21. So that has gone well. I really appreciate the invite, Sue. I love her thoughtful comments, and anyone who's interested in a little bit of a different approach to business development and sales. And my favorite audience is always a professional services audience of seller doers that are subject matter experts that also have to do business development, but maybe that isn't their actual kind of job all the time. And we're going to do like an hour's worth of stuff in about 9 minutes. And so I might talk a little bit fast. I'm going to give you all something also to do in your breakout room. So there's two components that I'm going to discuss today. The first is ideal client. So really being able to, we're always trying to refine and revisit how we talk about what it is that we do. And mostly when we talk about it, we say boring stuff that is actually not very compelling. And so how do we paint a picture for the reptilian brain? The reptilian brain, it's a little brain here, which is at the base of the brain stem. It's 450 million years old. It's pre-verbal. It needs emotion and visuals and contrast and language that is simple and understandable. And so my first prompt to kind of think about is around when you think about ideal client, how you talk about what it is that you do, how you're pitching and presenting your services. You, of course, have all of the details of all the smart stuff and all the this and the that you have to say. But also, there's a few things that I like to focus on. Number one, pain. Someone that's buying from us, what's going on for them that they're struggling with, worried about, mad about, upset about, feeling pressure around. So like really digging into what's the pain they might be feeling, where's the struggle, where's the worry, where's the pressure. Pain is actually the primary reason why anyone makes a change. And so there has to be some sort of pain for them to make any sort of change. The second is opportunity. So where are they trying to get? They're trying to get somewhere. They're looking for something. They've outgrown something. They want something new and different. They're looking to get somewhere and they need your help potentially to get to this place. Where are they trying to get to? What's going on right now in their business and in their reality and in their role where they need to get somewhere different? The third part is open to. So they can have all the pain and all the opportunity and kind of be in your sweet spot. But if the buyer or the buyers aren't open to certain things, then they're also not a fit. So what do they need to be open to? And I actually like saying this also out loud when we're pitching and presenting. They need to be open to make a change. They may need to be open to working with someone that's not a name brand. They may need to be open to following your process, which actually requires them to do some work. They may need to be open to take a risk. They may need to be open to having you talk to their boss or their bosses as a part of the decision. And the final piece to the ideal client profile that I like to find a way to also weave in is observations and philosophy. So you have your own observations about what's going on in the marketplace, what's going on in the world, what's going on in business. Like you have your own observations about like what you see happening. And it's also really useful to have your thoughtful observations as a part of the value prop pitch. That people who are ideal clients for you also appreciate and value your observations. People that are ideal clients for you have some sort of pain and struggle and worry that fits into your sweet spot. People that are ideal clients for you have some sort of opportunity they're looking to get to at this moment in time that you can help them with. And then finally, to be an ideal client for you, they've got to be open to certain things, and you know what those particular things are. So that was a lot about ideal client in a short period of time, but a few nuggets that you might be able to act upon there. Second piece that we're going to then kind of actually move into a breakout question is when we're having qualifying conversations with prospects, I have 5 key questions that I'm looking to either ask or listen for in conversation number 1 or conversation number 2. By the end of 2 conversations, we should have the answer or some sort of answer to all of these 5 key questions. Some of them are easy to ask, and some of them are a little bit scary and uncomfortable. So I'm going to give you the 5 key questions, and it's going to kind of lead into our breakout. And I'll give you kind of the way that I tend to say them. First key question, why change? why are we talking now? You answered my message or my outreach, or for whatever reason, we connected and you wanted to have a conversation. So I'm curious, why consider a change? What was compelling about the message that you saw or the whatever that you heard from us that had you reach out and be open to a conversation? So what was compelling? Why consider a change? Um, that kind of question, why are we talking? Can feel a little bit confronting, but it's also you're going to get a really interesting answer from that. And sometimes I'll ask it directly, and sometimes I'm just listening for the answer to why change. Second key question is why now? What is it about now? So, is there anything about now? We could have talked 6 months ago. We could talk 6 months from now. Like, is there anything about now that makes this a good time to be having this conversation? So, the why now gives me a sense of urgency, and they might have a really good answer for it. They might have kind of a crappy answer for it. But either way, I have a sense of like, are they actually serious? Is there any sense of urgency? Are they just kicking the tires? Are we being used? Are they really interested? So I want to get a sense of what is it about now? So why now is the second key question. Third key question is what matters most to you? And you can ask this in conversation one or conversation number two. I'm curious, kind of, based on the discussion we've had so far, what matters most? And if you have multiple people in the conversation, then you can also kind of actually have each of them share what matters most to them. Like, I really want to know, like, what matters most? We talked about a lot of different things, but like, what matters most? It puts them on the spot a little bit and can be a little bit uncomfortable, but it will give you more information about what they really care about and what matters to them. Because oftentimes I'll talk about price and other kinds of like logistical details, but like what really matters to them is typically something else. Fourth key question is who else cares? So the one thing to never ask is, are you the one who makes the decision? Because if you ask them, like, do you make the decision? Are you the decision maker? They will always say, yes, I am. And that is almost always a lie. So my mentor, Bill Caskey, one of his adages is never ask a question that forces a lie. I don't like asking yes or no questions. And I don't like asking questions that kind of maybe I won't get the truth. So my whole thing is create an environment to get the truth. Can you give me a sense of who else cares about this? Can you say a little bit more about your process and kind of who else is going to weigh in on this decision? I'm going to get some real information about who else we might need to include in this conversation in next steps. So the who else cares or any version of that gives me a lot of useful information about what's going on behind the scenes, who else we might need to include in the process. Super useful information. And then finally, the final question is, what did you like? So at the end of conversation number one or conversation number two, it's some version of, based on our conversation, I'm curious, what, if anything, stood out? What seemed compelling or interesting based on what you heard so far? Now, if you want to also add kind of the delta to that, it can be, I'm curious kind of what you liked, what stood out, and also any lingering questions and concerns. So I can give them the what did you like, and then what are your lingering questions and concerns. But at the end of the conversation, we oftentimes leave it not knowing how well it went. Did it go well? Were they engaged? What do they like? So giving them a chance to tell us what they liked, what they didn't like, what we missed, what was compelling, will also give us a lot of information about kind of where we stand. And so all of those questions are designed to minimize wasted time and effort, better qualify things, get more real more quickly in conversation number one or conversation number two, designed to have you all waste less time and be more compelling and engaging in your prospecting conversations.